Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. It turns out that toxic Bitcoin maximalists enjoy throwing stones in glass houses. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit of ammo that you can use the next time you see one of these stupid little trolls waddle past you and start muttering stuff. Bitcoin, Ripple scam coin zero. By the way, that is exactly what these toxic Bitcoin maxi trolls sound like. The next time they start muttering crap at you, here's some things that you can throw back at them. So recently, the toxic Bitcoin maximalists have been having a bit of fun here. Talking about a number of things. Well, first of all, I'm sure you heard about the hack yesterday. I mentioned it in a couple of videos. That's one thing. So now they're talking about how Ethereum is centralized because of the hack that happened yesterday. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll get into it. But also, they've specifically been targeting the XRP community and XRP holders and making fun of us because our coin has a chain. It's got a chain that halted. So that means that, oh man, God, this is not the future of money. And these are bogus claims. But did you know? And this totally destroys their argument. Like, anytime you throw this at them, they will ghost. They will vanish from the internet. They will cease to exist. Did you know, and this is just highly interesting, that the Bitcoin blockchain, it was rolled back? Did you know this? Oh, I've got some stuff for you. So the next time they say, oh, XRP can't work, that can't be the future of money, it's 2025 and you've got a chain that halted? Okay. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so just as a little refresher here, and for anyone that may have missed this, here's the headline from the block. XRP Ledger's hour-long halt sparks debate over consensus trade-offs. And to be clear, the XRP Ledger has had an uptime of 99.9999999, I don't know how many nines %. And it's not technically, and I don't get too much into the weeds, it's not that the ledger was technically down, it's that forward progress wasn't made because that's how it was designed. If something goes wrong having to do with consensus, rather than push forward, the XRP ledger optimizes for security. And that results in no forward progress until the problem is resolved. It's a security feature, actually. And so the toxic Bitcoin maximalists will make it out to be something else. But anyway, piece reads as follows. XRP Ledger experienced a temporary transaction outage of approximately 64 minutes late Tuesday, halting at ledger height 93 million, yada, 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 and prompting debate between critics and proponents over its severity. Some argued that the XRP Ledger halting for over 1 hour represented a consensus failure, opening up the network to critical coordinated attack vectors, and criticized a perceived level of centralization between a relatively small number of trusted validators. You see that, folks? Anytime something happens, it's centralization, but as you'll see, when something happens with Bitcoin in the same vein, no, that's not centralization. That's just the decentralized network doing what the decentralized network does because they're intellectually dishonest. That's what they are. Anyway, piece continues. In response, CTO of blockchain infrastructure firm Eminence, Daniel Keller, said the halt was working as designed to ensure the integrity of the ledger. There are trade-offs with every solution. Pausing until a solution is found is one of them, he said. It's validate or bust. That's very true. Now, as I cited at the outset, recently this is not the only thing that toxic Bitcoin maximalists are having a little bit of fun with. So here is the latest from yesterday. Here you can see, well, you know that the hack happened yesterday. Here's a new article from Cointelegraph on this. Bybit hack, that's the exchange, withdrawals top $5.3 billion, but reserves exceed liabilities. And so that's the report, although $5.3 billion were withdrawn from the exchange, and understandably so, people flipping out, after there was this security breach. But the good news is this is not an FTX situation by all accounts to this point. It turns out that the reserves that they have do exceed liabilities, so no problem in that sense. And they did get some loans from other firms. That didn't mean they were insolvent. That was purely to cover the shortages that existed because funds were stolen. But it's not that they were doing an FTX and gambling with your funds or anything like that. And so, yeah, $5.3 billion in outflows, and the theft was over $1.4 billion. And then we come to find out that it was North Korea. North Korea. Here, look at this headline from CoinDesk. North Korean hackers were behind crypto's largest theft of all time. Look at this. This is absolutely wild. Blockchain analytics firm Arkham Intelligence said North Korea's Lazarus Group was behind Bybit's $1.46 billion hack. This is the craziest damn thing here. But can you imagine if you've stolen that much ETH and other ERC20 tokens, and you've got it, and then what do you do with it? Like are you going to launder that successfully? And you're sure it's not going to get, like, can you imagine it being like having that much, that you've stolen that much and then trying to do something? Because historically, like, I mean, yeah, fine, some hackers get away with this, but you gotta be sweating bullets wondering, okay, is there anything that I didn't find out? And then remember RazzleCon, that idiot rapper, and whatever I guess it was her husband. They stole, at the time, it was the biggest crypto heist in history, and I can't remember what the numbers were. They were completely outrageous, and they thought that they were in the clear. They hacked it, and then years passed, and they're still holding it, and then it starts to move, so people are paying attention again. And they thought that they were in the clear because they used a mixer service so that you couldn't track where the funds flowed. But then the people that were running the mixer service, they got raided by some sort of government official. I can't remember what country that was in. But then they took all of the hardware, and then they could see, because again, that was the mixer room. They were blocking like the public availability to see what was happening behind the scenes. But then once that was confiscated, then the officials could see that. The law enforcement, they could see that, and that's how they get caught. So there are always things that maybe you didn't think of, or you didn't think would happen, that can happen. And just imagine if you, why would you not be sweating bullets if you're one of these hackers out there? Now, in the case of North Korea, I guess maybe they feel like, well, we're an entire country, and it's from the government that this comes from, so maybe we're just fine. But it's why, like, what are you going to do with it? Still, like, are you going to really successfully launder all this? I mean, okay. But anyway, the point is, I digress a little bit, sorry. But still, the toxic Bitcoin maximalists are having a lot of fun with this, and they really shouldn't be. So, like, here's a toxic Bitcoin maximalist named Tour de Meester. He's pretty well known in the Bitcoin community. 298,000 followers on X. And he wrote the following. The recent $1.4 billion ETH hack poses a dilemma for the cartel. Hard fork and roll back the chain, or pursue ultrasound narrative and take the loss. Either way, here's once more an exploit that highlights Ethereum's Turing vulnerability. I'm not sure that that's quite what that means if an exchange gets hacked, but setting that aside, if that's some sort of serious problem, then how do you justify it with Bitcoin? Because as former Ripple employee Matt Hamilton points out, Bitcoin's had a rough patch. And check this out. He wrote, "It is amazing how short Bitcoin maximalists' memory is. They seem to have forgotten when Bitcoin needed to be rolled back due to the value overflow bug that caused it to print 184 billion Bitcoin out of thin air." And folks, yes, that is indeed a real thing that happened. So, as most of you know, I assume, the max supply ever for Bitcoin is 21 million. But one day, somebody figured out a way to create 184 billion with a B Bitcoin. Look at this headline. The day someone created 184 billion Bitcoin. This is from Decrypt. And this is hilarious because, look, this is why I want you to know. So it's highly interesting. Anytime somebody gives you crap about the technical prowess of the XRP ledger, just throw this in their face and watch them run away. That's why I'm high. So it's really interesting, but I'm also giving you ammo. I'm giving you some ammo as my fellow XRP community member. So anyway, reads as follows. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, but we're not too far off. Around 18.5 million Bitcoin are already in circulation. And I'll pause to note that this is from articles from 2020, so the numbers will be slightly different than today. But anyway, it says, but on the 15th of August, 2010, that limit was destroyed by one person who managed to exploit a flaw to produce 184 billion Bitcoin. Let's set the scene. Back in 2010, Bitcoin peaked at around 30 cents. So low, in fact, that in May that year, someone spent 10,000 Bitcoin buying a single pizza, now worth over $110 million. By the way, that's actually a mistake. They bought two pizzas, and I believe it was Papa John's. Kid you not? So the 10,000 Bitcoin figure is correct because it was worth so little at the time, but it was two pizzas. Anyway, clearly Bitcoin wasn't the cryptocurrency juggernaut it is today. Like many new technologies, it experienced growing pains, one of which was a bug that generated billions of Bitcoin in a couple of transactions. In August 2010, Bitcoin source code was exploited by someone who to this day remains anonymous. Enter block 74,638, the fateful block that created, and I'll use a round number here, 184 billion Bitcoin, with two addresses receiving just over 92 billion Bitcoin each. And by the way, there's a screen grab. You can actually see this. It's, if you care to look anyway, they're right there, 92 billion Bitcoin. This is a real thing. Now, of course, the Bitcoin Maxis, they don't want you talking about this, but you can. Piece continues. The anomaly was quickly spotted on the Bitcoin Talk forum by Jeff Garzik, a Bitcoin developer who today is the CEO of Block. The issue was termed an overflow bug. The code for checking Bitcoin transactions didn't work if outputs were large enough that they overflowed when summed. The bug that caused the value overflow incident was corrected very quickly. It took just 5 hours before a soft fork was rolled out, which reset the Bitcoin blockchain to before the bugged block and included code to reject output value overflow transactions. That's right, folks. It only took a few hours, but they reset the Bitcoin blockchain after it was live. It's not like this was in beta. This wasn't some sort of test project at this point. It was live, and they just rolled it on back. Reset the Bitcoin blockchain to before the bug happened. That's unfortunate. A soft fork is a blockchain update. Since the Bitcoin community forked the state of the blockchain before the 184 billion Bitcoin was mined, that means that some blocks that were previously valid were turned into invalid blocks, removing them from the blockchain and restoring it to an earlier state. The fork erased all transactions in mining that had been recorded on blocks that were produced after the bugged block. It also disposed of the 184 billion bugged Bitcoin. The update, Bitcoin patch 0.3.1, was implemented by Bitcoin's pseudonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto himself. The rapid implementation of the patch was vital in keeping Bitcoin a viable cryptocurrency. 184 billion Bitcoin would have been devalued. The currency would have devalued the currency completely. Well, obviously. So there's now 184 billion when there was supposed to be a max of 21 million ever. Yeah, that would devalue the currency. That absolutely would. Increase in supply, of course it would. Anyway, leaving it at the mercy of the person holding the newly minted Bitcoin. Even if the breach happened today, the amount of bugged Bitcoin would completely dwarf the current supply of the cryptocurrency, making any Bitcoin worthless. Bitcoin also benefited from this exploit being patched close to its inception, since taking the Bitcoin network offline could be done without significant consequences. Today, such a disruption would cause widespread chaos, trading would be heavily disrupted, and any purchases that were made using Bitcoin would have been canceled. The very fact that a bug could enable the 21 million Bitcoin limit to be breached would also create shockwaves in the crypto community, likely causing the price of Bitcoin to collapse and fatally undermining confidence in the cryptocurrency. So folks, there's no guarantee with any coin, even Bitcoin, even XRP, that something like that couldn't happen. Maybe there is a way and no humans have yet discovered it. You know, XRP's been around a long time. Bitcoin's been around a long time. Maybe somebody would. You don't technically know for sure. That would be devastating and it would turn the world of crypto upside down in a bad way for a very long time. Technically, I mean, good, I suppose. But the point is, Bitcoin was never so pristine as these toxic Bitcoin maximalists make it out to be. It never was. And so that's why it's so rich, knowing the history of Bitcoin and that it's gone through this stuff. And then they call out the XRP ledger when it halts, but it's actually doing what it was programmed to do. Like, that's how it's supposed to respond under those specific parameters. It was understood that there was something, there could be certain situations where forward progress wouldn't be trustworthy. And in those situations, it's best to just stop making forward progress. That's the XRP ledger responding as it was designed. So the fact that it was doing this is a bit different than this bug that absolutely was in the production version of Bitcoin. That's a bit worse, don't you think? Yes, most obviously, yes. And that's not the only time we had something that it just destroys their narrative. Look at this. So here's another Bitcoin maximalist here named Jason Lowery. And he said the fact that people are even having to debate on whether or not the Ethereum Foundation should or shouldn't roll back the chain to prevent North Korea's hack from being successful is, number one, proof that the protocol isn't decentralized, and number two, proof that it could never be a viable global monetary blah, 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 could never be the monetary system, so on and so forth. And so XRP community member Crypto Arsenal had a bit of a response to this. He wrote, you mean like when the Bitcoin devs forced a rollback of Bitcoin guilds back, the Bitcoin Guild software back in 2013, or when Satoshi rolled back the network because 184 billion Bitcoin were printed in one block in 2010? Bitcoiners need to be very careful of the narrative they push here. And that's certainly true. And so here's what he was talking about in a separate post he wrote on January 17th. Fun Bitcoin fact. In March 2013, developers coordinated to get a large mining pool, which is called Bitcoin Guild, to roll back to prior software after an accidental fork took place. Without decentralized decision making, the chain may never have recovered. So, this, and by the way, as far as what constitutes this being centralized, let's just think from from an intellectual perspective here. Like let's just for fun talk. Like let's say there is some sort of rollback. Not that this is going to happen or that it's even actually being considered. But let's just say that that a rollback or being considered from Ethereum. If it doesn't even have to be Ethereum. Actually, let's just be more abstract. Let's say that there's a blockchain and there are 100 nodes and they each have a say in whether or not the chain's going to be rolled back. If 100% of participants agree in that decentralized system that the chain should be rolled back, does that mean it's centralized? No, very obviously not. In a decentralized system, if 100 participants, which have equal say, unilaterally decide that something should be done, even if it's a rollback, that's evidence of a decentralized system. There is no central authority that could stop them from doing that. Now, if you don't like if that happens, then fine, go find a different chain with different participants that don't find that they think that it's it's a bad value system, to roll back a chain. You can find that. There's plenty of chains out there. So if there's a chain where the participants all agree, no, it's fine. If something goes wrong, we're going to roll that bitch back. Then if you don't like that, then you participate on a different chain. Fine. That doesn't make it decentralized, though. And then on top of that, even if they did that, you could still choose to participate in the chain. Like you could still, if it's a hard fork, certainly you could choose to participate in either chain anyway. So there, under that specific circumstance, it still wouldn't matter. These are just such disingenuous arguments. It's toxic Bitcoin maximalists trying to take down anything that's not Bitcoin. They just come after XRP the most. But here, since it's just happened with ETH, yeah, of course. And here, it wasn't even something wrong with Ethereum itself. It's just that the exchange got hacked and they should have had better security, I guess. But they want to go after Ethereum explicitly, or specifically rather. For what reason? This does not make sense. This does not compute. So it's really weak arguments. And that's why I wanted to share this. It's interesting just to know these stories, but it's also useful. So the next time one of these idiots comes back, just look up the incident in 2010, where 184 billion Bitcoin was created out of thin air for no goddamn reason. Or you could look at what happened when the Bitcoin blockchain was rolled back in 2013. Bitcoin is not pristine here. If this is the ideology and rollback means it's centralized, which is what these idiots are arguing, then there you go. But I wouldn't even argue that. If the majority of those who control the network, which is the instance here in 2013, if they decide to do a thing, that's not centralization. That's decentralization. That's adhering to the code. Okay, that is absolutely, you may not like the procedure of rolling back, but that is a decentralized function that happened on the Bitcoin blockchain. But I'm just saying, Since their argument is that it is centralization, throw it in their face. Be like, well, it happened on your stupid little pet rock chain of crypto. Like, there you go. Them's the facts, folks. Now you know. And knowledge is power. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.